Intro. Last time I thought putting two fighting games into one episode was a good idea. Well, I'm not denying it wasn't a terrible idea, but the fighting games that Wikipedia has provided on its list has shown me that there's enough laughable elements in these fighting games to allow a single episode for them. Introducing the game Catfight, with it being the first piece of media to utilize sex appeal as its main selling point. Well, at least it's the first game to use scantily clad women to ensure some sales. Okay then, at the very least it's the first completely irredeemable game that uses the exploitation of women's bodies as a feeble attempt at justifying its existence. Before we get into this review proper, let's just have a look at the game's cover. As you can see, it already fails to be sexy by featuring two female phoenix hybrids that both have a look of constipation on their faces rather than a look of sexiness, as if not even the cover art wanted this shit game to come out. The back cover isn't much better, with pictures of the characters featured that look like a blind man with Parkinson's was tasked with drawing the characters, with the same problem as the cover. The drawings aren't attractive and look nothing like the characters in-game. Additionally, on the back cover, they name the characters even though the in-game character selection screen doesn't feature the character names, and combining that with the fact that the characters are so poorly drawn on the back, you'll never know what the characters' names are. Now, you may be wondering, why is it that I'm harping on about how unsexy this game is, and I'm doing it for a good reason. You see, the company who made this game, Atlantean Interactive, is the front organisation for the company Vivid Entertainment. If you're not aware of what Vivid Entertainment does, they're a porn company, and, well, if they have any association with this completely unsexy game, well, what does that say about their films? Well, after doing some research, I found they produce films as satisfactory. The game hasn't even been shown yet because to see it is a joke in of itself. However, if you play it on any modern PC, it runs faster than an Olympic 100-meter sprinter trying to dodge any drug use allegations. This is because the game's performance is uncapped, and maybe the developers had a premonition that the game would be poorly received and thought that no future gamer would be able to play it. Unfortunately for them, there are programs that allow these type of games to be run, and unfortunately for me, I then had to play this game. The first thing you'll notice when playing this game is the terrible music featured in it, sounding like the lead guitarist of a terrible garage band overdosed on cocaine and had a seizure with his guitar in his hands. In a typical fighting game, you would hear the occasional grunt and pant when characters hit and interact with one another. Not the case in this game. As every inch the characters seem to move, they let out the most obnoxious screeches imaginable, and combined with the grating music as mentioned earlier, it's best to mute the game at all times. Oh, I'm sorry about that. The game is so poorly coded that the sound off option on the menu doesn't even work. The stage backgrounds look like they were randomly taken from someone's photo album after they had been holidaying, and are so static, boring and out of place, a white background would have been better suited than these. The game suffers from using the realistic sprites of the characters and backgrounds, using realistic lightly there, because the effects of the fighters' moves look like a shape was filled in MS Paint. This greatly contrasts with the rest of the visuals in the game, making it a mess to look at. When two of the same characters are fighting, there is no colour palette swap or any change made to the other character to make any noticeable difference. With the game's unmutable sound and bland visuals already affecting your concentration, you may find yourself confusing your player character as the opponent, leading you to believe that the game's controls are worse than they already are. These controls are about as responsive as trying to communicate with the overdosed lead guitarist as mentioned earlier. In conclusion, I would like to say something very briefly to the game developers. If your game cannot run on any modern computer due to how fast it runs and someone slows down the game in order to be able to play it, it's not a good look when the literal unplayable version of your game is slightly more playable than the game you have released. I would say that Catfight has no redeemable parts to it, but at the very least I can make a joke using its title. This pussy ass excuse for a game has fought its way up the shit pile to dethrone Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. That's right, Catfight is the worst game so far, and if you want to see the list of games so far, well, just look at last episode's list and add Catfight to the start. Oh, okay, I'm not that cruel. Just pause in a bit and I'll put up the list soon. Anyway, please like this video, or else I threaten to never make another video again. Outro, 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 outro.